Hi, poets and quants. We're the B School Bossy Pants, and we're here to give advice and boss around our candidate, Melissa. My name is Betsy Masser, and I'm an admissions consultant. I run master admissions. I have a Harvard MBA. I worked on Wall Street for many years, and I also worked in Asia. I've been doing this business for about the last 10 years, and I am really excited to work with Melissa and my colleague, Pamela. I'm sitting here in San Francisco, California, and my colleague Pamela is sitting on the East Coast in New York. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Pamela Jaffe with the Jaffe Advantage. I went to Columbia Business School. Prior to my MBA, I worked in advertising and global advertising, and post MBA, I worked in a mixture of strategy consulting and internal strategy jobs. I also worked in Asia as well as in Paris on global accounts. I've been doing MBA admissions consulting for the past 10 years, and I'm really excited to be here today.
And Melissa's our candidate, and we're gonna tell her how to live her life. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're looking for?
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa. I'm in Los Angeles, California, and I'm currently the PR marketing manager at a integrated marketing communications agency in Santa Monica. I went to Boston University for my undergrad studying public relations and hope to go to UCLA, Northwestern, or NYU.
All right. Yeah, Northwestern Kellogg, is that right? Northwestern Kellogg is a little bit of the dream school, and UCLA is the hometown favorite. Is that right? And yes. NYU Stern because it also has really strong marketing, and it is in New York, correct?
Yes.
All right. And it looks like you have a GPA of 3.5 with honors, which is really great. And also your minor, I think you said, was in psychology. Is that right?
Concentration in psychology, correct.
That's good. And what we wanted to talk about, we haven't yet taken the GMAT or the GRE, and we'll get to that in 1 second. But you know, the first thing that schools look at are stats, okay? And so one of the things we want to know is, with your 3.5 in honors, we know you're a good student. Did you take any math? Pamela, you might have some comments on that as well.
I do. So let's start. Melissa, did you have any sort of math classes or math-oriented classes while you were in college?
So I took one elementary statistics class.
How did you do in that class?
I got a B+.
Okay, that's great. So the thing is that you have an advantage coming into these schools because you're coming from a non-traditional or relatively non-traditional career path, which is going to differentiate you, and the schools are going to love that. At the same time, they need to know that you can do the work, and one class is just not enough.
So, well, or can I just clarify on that elementary statistics class? Was it a business statistics and it's a decision theory type class, or was it more like social stats?
It was more social stats.
Okay. Yeah. So you really need to show these schools that you can do the work and you have the quantitative ability, even though you haven't taken those classes to prove it. So one of the things I think you need to do is what we call build an alternate transcript. And that means, and you have time, which is great, taking some classes to show them that you can do the quant work. Betsy, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the recommendations?
Yeah.
Betsy?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. So one of the things that I always recommend to my students is to take the course that UC Berkeley offers. It's an online course, and it's, I think, on demand. I have to double check on that, but I believe the UC Berkeley class is on demand, and that it is a full college class course online, and it's in math, it's the statistics for business decision making. So it's really a lot of students, you know, you get an A in a class like that, you go at your own pace, you get an A in a class, you really feel like it's a solid background. The other course that I recommend, in addition to the UC Berkeley extension class, is MBAmath.com. And that is really helpful. A lot of business schools actually ask you to complete that if you haven't, but it doesn't give a grade. So the combination, Pamela, weren't you saying that the combination of the two is what you recommend?
You have the time, and the combination of those two classes is really going to help you, because what the schools see is great GPA, she's really smart, you know, 2 quant classes, she can do the work. And it also shows that you are self-aware enough to know that you need to prove that you have that quantability and that you've taken the time and the effort to do that. So I actually recommend, given that it's May, that you do both.
Right. What
So
about the GMAT versus the GMAT, are you looking at GMAT or GRE? Have you started studying? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I'm currently studying for the GMAT after talking to some friends who have graduated or going through the process. So far, they recommend the GMAT because they're saying admissions take it more seriously because the GRE is more applicable to other master's programs. Would you say this is general rule of thumb or an accurate decision?
oh. Well, let
No?
me ask you a question first of all.
Yeah.
How is the GMAT going? Do you feel
Yeah.
comfortable
How is
with
it
this?
going? It's a bear of a test. Let's admit that.
Yeah, I think sentence construction is actually really fun. So it shows that I'm really strong with the qualitative aspects, but quant is, I haven't taken like calculus or algebra or anything like that since high school. So it's,
And it is mostly high school algebra and
So,
a little bit of
yeah.
pre-calc. Yeah. Pamela, what do you have to say? You had a candidate that
yeah.
actually.
So, and Betsy, I know we have a slightly different opinion on this, but I think for your case, we're probably both going to have the same opinion.
Okay.
I don't think it matters if you take the GRE or the GMAT. What it matters is that you take the test where you can do the best. And here's the reason why. So if this applies to you, if you were going into finance, I would have a different answer. And I actually have encouraged people in finance to take the GRE, but as a general rule, I prefer the GMAT.
Yeah.
But in your case, they're looking for two things. One, they're looking for quantability, but you're going to show that through your alternate transcript. And two, quite frankly, they use these tests for the rankings and they want the highest average possible. So given two people with the same score, they're going to go with the higher score.
There's
They know the
definitely,
math
there's
is
more
easier.
money.
GRE.
Okay, a couple of things. There's also more money, even with the GRE. I've seen in my experience, especially recently, you see that there's more money for people who have higher scores. And then the other thing is in the case of the GMAT versus the GRE, you know, you really do get your quant and your verbal broken out, right? And so the higher your quant is, the more comfortable that they are with you on whether you can actually do the work. So the question that what I would just recommend for you is to just play with both, see which works for you, because one approaches your brain in one way and one approaches your brain a little bit of another way. So don't want to spend too much time on
Yeah,
that right
one
now.
thing I would just say or two things I would just say is first of all, do the score where you have not only the better overall score, but the better overall split. Second of all, don't spend too much time going down a rabbit hole. I have worked with candidates who come to me after they've taken the GMAT 5 times, and I redirect them, and in 1 month, they've gotten the GRE down.
Yeah, it works out.
Spend the time.
So yeah, so I see, let's talk about your job a little bit and the career up to pre-business school, especially if you want to be a global marketing guru, international marketing expert. What can you, so I see on your resume that you worked for Guinness, that was an internship beforehand, but that's not the beer, is it?
No, it's not the beer. It is Guinness World Records. I worked.
Okay, we know that.
Yeah, I worked at the PR department in London at their headquarters, which was an amazing experience. But I currently work for a smaller agency, and I do know admissions really look for those more like well-known names. Am I at a disadvantage because I work at a smaller agency right now?
I don't really agree with that point of view. Look, there's advantages and there's disadvantages to brand names, and you really have to focus on the positives of what you have. While you don't have that brand name, what you do have is an ability to show impact. This is what the schools are looking for. How have you made a difference? And one of the things that's great about working for a smaller company is that you have your hands all over the place in lots of different pots. You have the ability to talk to senior executives and to actually make decisions that people at a lot of the bigger companies don't. So what you need to do is really leverage the advantage of working for a startup rather than focusing on the fact that that name is not known. Because somebody coming from a big company, they may not have the same impact and the same experiences as you.
Exactly. And the other thing is you get the opportunity not only to work with senior executives in your own company and learn sort of right from them, but didn't you tell us that earlier that you had an opportunity to go to China and meet with the Alibaba senior executives, which is something that in a larger company, I don't think you would have had the chance to do.
Yeah, I know that was a really amazing experience. It was 6 months into working full-time after graduation. I traveled to Hangzhou, China to visit the Alibaba campus with my CEO, who happens to be my direct manager. And yeah, my friends and family were completely shocked that I was even given the opportunity, or even able to have that opportunity.
And so tell us more about that. So you got the opportunity to meet with the senior execs. Did you actually get into the conversations and negotiations?
Yeah, so this was actually right before the trade wars, and which happened really quickly. Those developments we were actually able to see in the time that we were in Hangzhou, and by the time we flew back to LA, it was all the headlines were about that. And then it was interesting because they kept asking us about like economic trade and what our thoughts as Americans were about that issue. And then my CEO and I were just looking at each other and we're just kind of like, why do they keep asking about this? And then once we like land, we're like, oh, we see, because
yeah. I mean, this is amazing too, because schools are looking not just for what you're going to get out of the school, but where can you add value to the classroom? And that's a place where you're going to have a conversation that nobody else can have.
Right. I mean, you're not just being sort of a silent translator there. You're actually being part of the conversation and being jumping in on that. So that comes to what leadership is. I mean, leadership also, the thing that's interesting about this is you raised your hand for this. Is that right? You said, I want to go to China and I want to be there. And that's what leadership, business schools are really excited about leadership. It's a small company. So what are you going to do? You're not going to be head of operations or something, but you're going to be able to act as a leader by initiating projects and showing impact. That's what Pamela was saying earlier about.
Right. And I go back to the fact that titles don't matter. Everyone always asks this. It's not about what the title is. It's about what you do and what you volunteer for and where you take initiative and where you go above and beyond.
So the other thing we want to get to really quickly before we wrap up, because we're running out of time a little bit, is about leadership and extracurriculars. That's another way for admissions officers to take a look at what kind of impact you've had around. And one of the things that I noticed about you is that you were a competitive figure skater. And that is a little bit of so a lot of people ask is like, what if I'm a solo kind of like track star or something like that? But one of the things that you've done is, in addition to competing, you became a teacher, I think, in skating for young and old alike. Is that right? Tell us more.
So one of the things that actually kept me on the ice for so long was my love for teaching. I was a figure skating instructor for toddlers all the way to adults. I taught private lessons as well as group lessons, off-ice training, dance classes specifically for the athletes. And it was an incredibly rewarding experience, and no personal achievement could compare to seeing an adult master their first jump, or the toddler taking their first fall and standing back up on his own.
Oh my God, that's such a great...
Love that you said no personal achievement can compare, because schools have different personalities, and Betsy, let me know what you think, but UCLA and Kellogg are schools that are really focused on teamwork. And yes, leadership's important, but there's different kinds of leadership. And what I call it is servant leadership, right? They want to see, how do you not just lead and help yourself, but how do you help others achieve leadership? And that is a perfect example of leading to help others achieve something.
Right. Like UCLA, one of their tenets of leadership, they call that shared success. And then Kellogg is all about teamwork. I mean, there's not a real individual component to it. So those two schools are really, really really impressed with stories about how you are not necessarily in the spotlight, but you're allowing others to succeed.
Yeah.
Great. So I just want to say we're really excited to have you here. Thank you so much, Melissa, for participating in the Bossy Pants. We have much, these conversations can go on and on and on, but we now are going to wish you the very best. We're very optimistic. I think that obviously the GMAT or the GRE, whatever you choose, is going to be something that you just have to do. But I think that once you get that under control, then I think that you will be able to tell a really great story for
these. I think you have all the components of a great story. So just get that test down, because that's really going to be the baseline for where to apply. But afterwards, you have all the components. It's just putting them together in a way that tells the story about who you are.
That's great. Thank you.
Best of luck.
Best of luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you.